maybe trickle in. But if anybody just wasn't 100% sure, we've got LowKeyJude talking about retaining retention today. So we really appreciate everybody coming out, and we appreciate LowKeyJude putting this together for us. So, Jude, it's all yours, man. Take it away.
Okay, yeah. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see this. Yeah, it seems to be good. Let me go into slideshow. So this will be mostly focusing on long form YouTube videos, and it will be a beginner guide, and it will also be some advanced information. So it'll be available for everyone and accessible for everyone. So let's get straight into it. Now, what you'll learn from this presentation is how to make a great intro, how to hook your audience in 3 seconds, and how to re-engage your audience throughout the whole video, as well as how to make a lasting impression on your audience. Now, it all has examples from the top YouTubers so that you know it's solid. Now, firstly, my experience, I've become a YouTube consultant. I don't know if you've heard of Paddy Galloway, but I recently had a small job with him. I'm going to be going for a more full-time position with him. So fingers crossed for that as well. So let's get straight into it. Firstly, what does retention actually mean for you? So retention is the continued possession, use, or control of something. Now, that's a little bit complicated, so let's break it down in terms of YouTube terms. So in YouTube, it simply means to control the viewer's attention. So you want your viewer to watch longer on the video. Now, the difference between retention and attention is the thumbnail and title. So you get the viewer's attention while they're scrolling through the homepage. You keep their retention throughout the video. I hope that makes all sense. Now, keeping the viewer's retention is important because it's one of the 2 most important metrics that YouTube uses to promote your video. So if you have high retention, your video will be pushed out to more people. Now, the 2 metrics of YouTube is CTR, which is known as click-through rate. This is the percentage of viewers that click on your video. Now, if you go into your YouTube studio, it will be displayed your CTR, or your impression click-through rate, as a percentage on your panel. Now, the other metric that we're going to be focusing on during this presentation is AVD, and that's kind of the technical term for retention. Now, is the average view duration that your viewer watches. And this is the average time a viewer watches your video, hence the name. And in YouTube Studio, you can find it under the analytics, content, and then the engagement. Now, high CTR and high AVD equals more views. Now, this is because YouTube wants you to click on a video and watch to the end and stay longer on YouTube so that they can promote ads to the viewers. This creates the company money. So as YouTube is just a company and it's owned by Google, all it wants to do is make you money and make the company money. So to increase your retention, there are 3 key areas that are essential, and that's what this presentation is going to be focusing on, which is the intro and the first 30 seconds, and how to keep an audience as long as possible during that intro and 30 seconds. We'll also be focusing on the after the first 30 seconds, so that's the rest of the duration of the video. And then after that, the final point of the presentation will be after ending the video. So during the end of the video, which is when most people click off, how to keep as many people on the video as possible until the end. So let's get straight into it. The intro and why the first 30 seconds of your video can spell success or failure. Let's go straight into it. YouTube highlights the importance of the first 30 seconds on your video. That shows that YouTube highly important. As you can see right here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but if you see the top left of this retention graph, which is the breakdown of the analytics, lots of people click off during the first second and 2 seconds of your video. So how do you reduce that? Now, I'm going to be using an example from Mr. Beast and how he uses a strategy called the rule of 3 to script his intros. He uses 3 key things. Now, this is very, very important. The premise of your video. So what actually happens in your video and how do you explain to your audience and your viewer what will happen during the video? The stakes. What will happen if you fail? What will happen if you succeed? Now, a very important thing about stakes, people usually just slap, I'll be doing this in 24 hours. Now, that is a good stake, but it's overused and it's not primal. The reason why it works is because if you explain it to a caveman, they will understand the progression of time. So simply, a steak is something that anyone could understand, even a caveman, and something you could explain to them. And people overcomplicate steaks, so keep it primal. Even the threat of embarrassment is good enough to have steaks in your video. The last thing he uses is a twist. What puts you out and what is different for the rest of the viewer? So if you're scrolling through YouTube, it takes a while. Sometimes you click off during the first second, the first 10 seconds, the first 30 seconds. So what about your video is different? Now, in this example, in the Squid Game videos, he has an intro that goes, I recreated every single step from Squid Game in real life. And whichever one of these 456 people survives the longest wins 456 grand. Now, that is a great intro because it uses the rule of three. The premise is very simple. You easily understand how to implement the embarrassment. For example, I'll go over the Q&A at the end. I think it will be better if I do that. So the premise, you understand, is Squid Game in real life, and it explains the progression of the video. The stakes is someone could win 456 rand, and out of those 456 people, one will win it, and 455 people will lose it. Now, the twist is not very many people do it to this scale. So because no one can do it to this scale, no one else can, be even close to this video. Now, this is a breakdown of Mr. Beast's intro in kind of technical details. Now, if you see, the length of the intros are around, the longest is around 20 seconds, the shortest is around, 4 seconds. So the faster you can deliver the rule of three, the better. And that includes cuts, which increase the pace of the video. The faster the pace is, the more people will watch to the end. Now, sound effects are also important because they're a re-engagement strategy. We'll be going over re-engagement later on in the presentation. And if you look at the length, the cuts, and the sound effects, the shorter the length, the more cuts and the more sound effects, it's a positive correlation with the views, which means that the more cuts and sound effects and the less amount of time used, the more views you'll have, in theory. Now, just to make sure that you know that he constantly uses this is a breakdown of 8 videos that I randomly selected from his channel. Even a video, if you can see, in the bottom right, this is one that's around 1 year old. He still used this. So he still uses the rule of three, which is twist, stakes, and premise. You guys can always go back to this presentation to closely look at this data, but because there's lots of points in this presentation, I'm wary of time, so I'll move on. Now, this structure is flexible and it can be innovated to fit your style of content. If you were able to, fully copy Mr. Beast's style and the way that he uses the rule of three, then why would the viewer watch your content over Mr. Beast? You should use the theory and use the structure, but change it. Now, this is the book called Save the Cat that talks about film reviews by 3%, which means that, if that makes sense, if you change yourself by 3%, it's enough to differentiate yourself from the crowd. However, a very common mistake I've seen, especially from Crazy Gains, is that they waste words. We use the word fluff in the YouTube space, and that's words that could be cut that don't add to the overall video, the story, the pace, or the feeling of the video. And if you use words that don't make sense, that aren't clear, you will lose your attention. Now, I've worked with 2 clients here. The one on the right used a lot of filler words, and he would say, hey guys, welcome to another video. The one on the left used the rule of three, and I've made sure, because I scripted the video, just that I used the rule of three within that client. Now, an example of where Mr. Beast didn't use the rule of three, or more specifically, didn't waste words, he repeats the word, this is $1 million, which is boring to the viewer. They already know that there's $1 million. They also show that there's Logan Paul, Bella Porch, CHC, and so many others. Now, as you can't see the video, it's very hard to understand what I mean by this, but they visually show these people, which means that instead of showing these people, because a YouTube audience would understand who these people are, they tell you. Now, show and tell is a very big mistake within this niche. instead of telling the audience something is happening, show them, because many people underestimate the smarts of their audience. Your audience will know who Logan Paul is, who is Bella Porch, who is EHC. These are like the top of YouTube. So of course, a casual viewer of MrBeast will know these people. It's also good to bring attention to the fact that this intro is 18 seconds long, which is on average around 10 seconds longer than his original intros. So that 10 seconds has gone into the YouTube original stinger at the start of the video. And, you know, it's a lot of fluff words, which means that it's delaying the content, which is the reason why you're there. Now, is this enough? Because if you script this, is there enough to hook the viewer? Well, my favorite example of this is a creator called Ryan Trahan. He's recently popping off with the I'm giving 1 penny across America to give to MrBeast. So in this example and this case study of the intro in I Survived Sensory Deprivation is what I'm going to be specifically zooming into. This video within around a few months got 10 million views and was an outlier on his channel. Now, an outlier means that it's kind of like if you know a 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10, which means that it's got more views than your other videos on average. Now, if you confirm the click, which is people read your title, you've got their attention to their title and their thumbnail. If you do something completely different to what is promised in your packaging, that means people will click off. So you make sure that your audience knows they are in the right place, and that is called confirming the click. In this video, he says explicitly, sensory deprivation is straight up scary. And I've zoomed into the fact that this is in 2 seconds. He confirms the click within 2 seconds. And that's what you clicked on, sensory deprivation chamber. And it's also even more important that he sets up an impossible feat. He says it's straight up scary, so he combines confirming the click with stakes. Now, this is a very important fact. He over-delivers with his storyline. So he builds up a personal connection with the audience with a joke. And he's relatable. He says, I spend 10 hours on my phone, which is way too much. So I want to go into the sensory deprivation chamber to make sure that he knows this. So this relatability is exploiting the psychological term affinity bias, which is the unconscious bias that we like people that are more like us. And if you like someone, you're more likely to watch their video through the end. Now, Ryan is trying to not only make his established audience feel a stronger connection to him, but to get a new audience to like him. Now, this is also within the storytelling of the video, building on Ryan's fatal flaw. If we even zoom into film techniques, this is the theme stated, which is we know what the tone of this video is, which is a funny, relatable video combined with a spectacle. Now, he uses 2 hooks within this, which is spectacle, which I talked about, and humor. And you might not know what hooks are on, but later on in the workshop, we'll be focusing very specifically on them. And he integrates this intro with a clip, which means that you don't know when the intro starts and when the intro ends. This also means that within the audio, there's no time for the audience to click off because there's constant audio. I don't know, my British people will relate with me. If someone is having a conversation with you, you can't really just walk off. That's really awkward and socially wrong. So Ryan exploits this to have an integrated intro to feel like you're having a conversation with him, so you can't click off. Now, if your audience doesn't care about your motivation, this is very important, they will click off. Now, he talks about with his dad here in this clip, and he says, oh, I bet you can't survive in this sensory deprivation chamber. That will be his motivation. He wants to prove his dad wrong. And I can't remember who wanted to talk about embarrassment as the stakes. This is a prime example. Ryan doesn't say, if I lose this challenge, I will lose $10,000. He says, whoever loses at the end of the video has to dress up as Shrek. Now, obviously, you don't want to dress up as Shrek. So that's the embarrassment stake. Now, he does this everything I've explained within 12 seconds, which is why I wanted to zoom in specifically to this video. Now, the titans of YouTube, including MrBeast, Ryan Trahan himself, Matthew Beam, and Iraq also does this. So here's some more examples zooming into this. I've also added Sandiction as a no, because I know Creator Games is a very Minecraft-friendly audience. Within all of these videos, you can always look back at this, I'm just wary of time, is that they confirm the click, they over-deliver, and they integrate their intro with a clip to make it feel like the intro is part of the video. This also means that the pacing of the video doesn't feel disconnected. Now, but you might be able to make this perfect intro, but how do you stand out? How do you get people to make sure that they click on, they feel like this piece of video is special and unique? Now, Eric uses hooks. He's like the master of hooks within YouTube. So let's zoom into his examples. Now, I've chosen my 3 favorite videos, which is his most recent one, which is Escape or Die in Real Life, his dating video, where it's 100 dates in 24 hours, and delivering the world's largest pizza in the world's smallest car. Now, there are 3 reasons why I want to zoom into this, is because the hook is extremely powerful. Now, let's zoom into that. Within these videos, so the top one is 100 dates in 100 dates in 24 hours. Ryan shows a bunch of girls, which is about 15, within saying he doesn't want to do it, and it's a spectacle hook. You don't imagine that there's going to be 50 girls within this black tarpaul. Now, this shows that the content is an experience and not like any other video on YouTube. This uniqueness is called the blue ocean strategy within marketing, which is when your content is unique and it can't be found anywhere else, which reduces the competition drastically. Now, this reduces the amount of people that will click off instantly in this specific example within Escape or Die in Real Life, where a train is about to run over Ryan Arak and kill him. He uses a knife to quickly escape, and the music builds and builds. Now, this is impossible to click off because you want to know, is he going to die to this train or is he going to survive? And finally, this last example is a massive portal that Arak teleports into, which also is a spectacle hook. You cannot get it anywhere else. Now, I like to use another example of a Minecraft hook because I know Creator Games is a very Minecraft audience. One of my friends, Marcus, uses a very effective hook, which is Blockbuster. Now, I know many of you people know Ethobot, who uses Blockbuster to hook an audience in, which is kind of like an animation within Minecraft, and not very many other videos use the hook. So that means that it's unique in that aspect. Now, an example of other hooks, except from spectacle hooks, is Matthew Beam, Parrot, and Arak, and it shows a stunning scene to hook the viewers. Now, I've added links to every single one of these channels, so you can always go back to when this link is published to you and have a look at these exact channels. Now, comedy hooks, for ones that aren't like aggressively optimized, is a great way to set the tone for comedic content. People like RecRap, Ryan Trahan, Jay Schlatt, and Tommy Innit instantly hook the viewer within the first 3 seconds by telling a funny joke. And the final one is called in media res, which is in the action, and is when you show a clip that creates action and conflict straight away. Many creators, such as Minecraft Curious, Planet Lord, and Sandiction, instantly start in this action to hook the viewer. You want to know what will happen next. Now, if you want to take away one of the most important lessons from this presentation, all you have to do to increase retention is have a question at the start of the video that will be delayed until the end of the video. The only way for that question to be answered by the audience is to watch longer. Now, more specifically, in media res, in YouTube terms, is called the cold intro. You'll hear lots of creators talk about the cold intro because it's also a very kind of common hook. Now, let's go away from the intro and into more optimization throughout the video. And it's explaining why your viewers might click click off your video after these first 30 seconds, after you've made this brilliant intro, you've hooked the viewer, and you've over-delivered, you've confirmed the click, and you've integrated your clip. Now, we're going to focus on one of the most optimized content, which I personally don't like because it's for 7-year-olds. It's Matthew Beam and how many re-engagement strategies he uses in this specific video called I Built a Real-Life Minecraft Ender Dragon. It's got 1.5 million views, and even though it's not one of his most, viewed video, I wanted to focus onto it because I love fucking Minecraft. It's so cool. Now, the way that he does it straight away is that he builds new characters. Now, there's 2 very big characters within this video called Tommy Innit. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a pretty small creator, and his friend. Now, he introduces these characters to build up and re-engage the audience. But how specifically does he do it? He uses his friend right here in the top right of these images to reflect the thoughts of the viewer. He specifically says, "Oh, Matthew Beamer, I don't think that you can do this." Now, not only does that build stakes, it answers what the audience would think. Now, not only does this trend jack with Tommy in it, which is when you use a bigger creator to get more views, he serves as the antagonist, and an antagonist in a storyline is the opposite to a protagonist. Tommy asks for an impossible task. He says, "Can you make the Ender Dragon that's made out of cardboard and wood breathe fire?" Now, as a viewer, that's even more unlikely. He also uses Tommy in it to say a funny joke. "Is it hot and sexy, the Ender Dragon?" Now, that's another example of a hook. He also makes sure that the storyline of the content goes through many twists. Now, he has to go over hurdles, Matthew Beam. Around the 2-minute mark, he's built this amazing Ender Dragon. He's built the legs, and he's like, "Is this going to work?" He pulls away, and it crumbles. He has to start from 100% done to scratch. Now, that's a great re-engagement strategy because not only does it build progression in the video, it feels like it's going to somewhere. It also is like, this is impossible, the audience thinks. So they want to see at the end of the video, will he be able to build this Ender Dragon or will it fail? Now, you want to see the process and the final product of the Ender Dragon as well. You might have seen it in the thumbnail, but you want to feel the satisfaction, the payoff of seeing the Ender Dragon at the end, because it's been hyped up through these twists. That makes you want to watch the end even more. Now, within his fast pace, throughout the whole video, which is about 8 minutes, he has 8 twists, which is about a twist a minute. So that means it keeps the audience on their toes and engaged. Now, this is a very, very important thing. If you don't fail during the video, it seems easy. If you're doing especially challenge videos, spectacle content, if you go, "Yo, I did it," and you have no fails, no process, it'll feel boring because it feels like to the audience it might be collecting 1 million stacks of netherite. But if it feels like an easy process, the audience doesn't have a frame of reference to know that it was hard or easy. Now, another re-engagement strategy he uses is audio. Audio is incredibly, I cannot stress this enough, important. Audio not only re-engages the audience, it makes them feel happy. So if you have, a music reach its climax, you want that during a payoff so the audience feels, accomplished and dopamine. Now, within the 1 minute of his video, he changes the mood of the audio. So that's like the tone, the kind of vibe of the music 15 times. So imagine you're watching, you feel happy, sad, angry. These kind of shifts in emotion get you re-engaged in the content. Now, he cuts the music a lot to introduce new music, and crescendos and decrescendos, you probably don't know what that means because you're not like a nerd like me that studies music. But essentially, a crescendo is when the music kind of gets louder. A decrescendo is when the music gets softer. So if you're building towards an epic moment, let's say you're building, you want a crescendo to reflect your energy levels. You want a decrescendo if you feel sad, because the music should reflect the emotion of the video. Now, every single time the music changes, the mood changes. Now, you might think this is about engagement, and there's this mythical algorithm that chooses, how good your content is. The algorithm serves your viewer. So when people say the algorithm, what they should be saying is the audience, the viewer. If the viewer does not like your video, it will click off. And through the metric of AVD, which is your engagement, it will say, oh, wait, that viewer doesn't like the content, so we shouldn't recommend this out to more people, because they want you to watch ads. Now, he also, this is very important, uses sound effects. Now, sound effects is a great way to hook your audience as well, because there could be a meme sound effect, a whoosh. Beast Sugar in this VC, big shout out. In his shorts, he uses like 5. In the intro, within the first milliseconds, he has like a thump. That makes sure that while you're scrolling through TikTok, you know that this content is different. If we apply this to YouTube, when you click on a video, it has some type of instant sound effects that makes you go, this is unique, this is interesting. That will increase retention. Now, this is important. There is not 1 millisecond, not 1 frame without audio. There is always a sound effect. There is always music. There's always a way that makes you feel. Okay, let me pick up the pace. Now, he also uses downtime and pacing variations. So doing this little guy here, they dress up as Minecraft men and go shopping. Now, this is funny for a viewer after a bunch of intense building. So this pace change kind of engages the audience more. Now, contrast, especially pacing, brings attention to your content, which means the more attention you get, the more people will be watching longer. Also, cutting the tension changes the emotions. The more emotions felt by the viewer, the more likely they are to watch the end. Now, it re-engages the audience, but this is very, very important. If you're constantly going, hey guys, in this video, I'll be giving $10,000 to this homeless man. Oh my God, that was such a pog reaction. Throughout the whole 8 minutes, the audience will sit there in their chairs, in their bed, bro, just shut up. If you kind of change the pacing, kind of ease it and build it up again, that will create constant conflict and it doesn't burn out the viewer. Now, if you're making a comedic video, you should have downtime especially, but it shouldn't undercut the tension of the video. It is a break from it. Like when you take deep breaths after a long run, you might be running a marathon. You won't just, stop completely for a day. It should be quick kind of pacing breaks that break up the video. Now, he reaffirms the stakes of the video. Tommy says, oh, you don't want to let me down. And now that's another example of emotional stake. He doesn't want to, dissatisfy this massive YouTuber that he's looked up to. And this is reminding the audience of the consequences of failing the challenge. If I fail this challenge, I'll let down the Tommy in it down. Now, the best stake has not only a positive outcome if completed, but a negative outcome. So if he doesn't do this, he will let down Tommy in it. But if he completes it, he'll make him proud. Now, if you reaffirm the stakes throughout the video, it will increase the tension and makes the stakes always at the back of the viewer's mind. They think, I don't want to let Tommy in it down. I don't want Matthew Bean to let down the audience. Now, another example thing, I know especially within the SMP niche, people struggle with audience building. Now, branding re-engagement strategies is a great way to show that. Within the video, Matthew Beam shows all the insane builds that he does. He says, throughout my videos, I have a reputation of building the most insane Minecraft builds. So for a casual audience, that's the person that's never watched your video, it shows that Matthew has more videos that are similar to the one you're watching. You could think, oh, I might actually watch, this dream building video, this techno video. However, for an active audience in a connected community, those are people that might have watched your videos casually, but not like die-hard stands like Dream has. And this is a video that a viewer may have missed, triggering fear of missing out, that's FOMO, and increasing session time. Now, I use this buzzword of session time. Session time is essentially watching a video back to back. And YouTube, the algorithm goes, oh my god, this is cool. They're watching more than one video. They must love this creator, which means that more of your videos will go on the viewers recommended, and that means the more views you will get. Now, just because you have a great intro and great re-engagement doesn't mean the video is good. This is a very important example of how Dream's most recent video shows how not progressing the video can kill it. Now, I don't know if you had to suffer about this video, but this is how Minecraft 100 Floor Survival, one of the worst packaging, and it showed because it was a boring video, it didn't progress, and the views reflected it. It's his worst performing video in years. I actually checked back and I was like, oh, I'm sure it wasn't too bad. And I just kept on scrolling and scrolling. And I think I had to go to like 2 years when he first started out. There's a video with about 3 million. That's how bad the video is. Okay, so let's focus why progression is important. Now, within these 3 images, these are taken without like 5 to 10 minutes apart. So the way the video worked is that he goes up an elevator in Minecraft and mobs come out like a door. I know it sounds like a ridiculous idea because it was a ridiculous idea. It didn't work at all. But the main reason why it didn't work is because floor 1, floor 7, floor 46, they felt very samey. And this burnt the viewer out. It's like, well, I can predict what's coming up next. Why would I watch on? Like, Dream is probably going to die anyway, so what's the point? Now, if you can project what will happen in your video, why would the viewer watch on? Time is precious. You only have 24 hours in a day. Why would they spend 10 minutes of their precious time that they cannot get back watching your video? You have to have these re-engagement strategies, these progression, these intros to make sure the viewer knows this content is amazing. I need to keep on watching. Now, if we completely break this down, all it means is a lack of progression is boring, and they'll click off. Now, this is someone that, made a video. It felt like it was reaching a conclusion. This is a positive one. 77% of viewers, I think it got around 800,000 views from someone I know. Now, it felt like it was reaching a conclusion, this video. It progressed. It kept the video, entertained. Now, if you actually focus on, let's break down this graph. Can you see the flatness of it? That means that whenever there's a little dip in this graph, people are clicking off your video. So the more flat your graph is, usually the better it is. That's just a quick synopsis. Now, there must be an objective you're working to create a sense of progression. Now, when I say payoff, that's like a positive outcome. And that makes the viewer feel, good. Now, if you tease the payoff, if you fail, if you progress through the video, it's interesting. Now, everything should link back to the objective that you set out in the title and thumbnail, including your side plots. So when I say side plots, that means, let's say, good video with a side plot in the SMP niche is Wenzo's My Pig Can't Die, or My Pig is Immortal, something like that. And he has the B story, that's like the technical term, of this player texting is like, your pig is so special, you don't know why it's special. And this B story progresses and it feels like it's going somewhere. Like, why is this pig special? These questions are delayed until the end of the video where you get your answer. Now, what does that mean? So on your left, you can see an example of what a video should look like if you're scripting. It should have a fail, it should have a fail, 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 and then finally you win. And that's quite an easy thing to follow. Let's say if you just win, 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 win. I don't know if you've ever played like a video game, if this annoying person just wins, wins, and wins, and wins. You don't feel, connected, you feel bored. That's why progression is also important. Now on the right, I don't know if you've seen this before because I don't know if you're a nerd like me that studies psychology. This is called the pyramid of needs. This is what every single human needs in their life, which is self-actualization, esteem, love and belonging, safety needs, psychological needs. And you can look properly at this graph, this triangle, but essentially, it's a great way to show, is your stakes primal? Can it be understand your journey? If that makes sense. It essentially is a way to ground and make your video clear to your audience. Now, if you delay your final bit of gratification, you can see on this great curve that it actually pays off. If you look at the far right, can you see that increase of graph? That's people rewatching the last bit, which means that the final bit of gratification, your final payoff, was satisfying. However, if you just delay and delay and delay and delay, viewers will get bored, right? However, if you give them too many wins, they'll feel, oh, this is too easy. You have to find a great balance. Now, this graph shows that these small wins are the little tips in retention. Now, there's one about every, it looks like 4 to 5 minutes that keeps a viewer interested. You're still getting wins. And then that means that the final payoff is still interesting. Now, how do you give the viewer wins to increase retention? I've talked about payoffs, but how do you specifically do this? What are some examples? Now, I'm a little bit of a Dream stan, so I'll use the example of Minecraft Manhunt because Dream is so serious. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, specifically in the video, Minecraft Speedrunner versus 5 Hunters, you've probably all seen it if that's Reddit, TikTok, or YouTube clips, but that's the one where he kind of crafts the boat and clutches. Even if you watch RecRap, there's a video where he clutches with the boat. So you've definitely seen this video. I've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 examples of small wins. Now, there's block clutches. He gets pushed off a ledge, but luckily, he just block clutches to his win. Now, there's near misses. He almost dies. Now, he regens as well after being on half a hut, so close to death. And then you see him crafting a boat in midair and clutching and not dying. These kind of keep a viewer entertained because they're like, oh my god, this Dream person is insane. I'm sure he's done nothing controversial on Twitter and his content is so good. He also gets good items and you start rooting for him. Now, when I use the word protagonist, this is in a story and it kind of creates like an affinity, a connection to Dream, which is why he has so many stans. Now, specifically, there's a book called Save the Cat that says, oh, you have to make sure that this protagonist is likable. How do you do that? He saves a literal cat out of a tree. Dream can't save anyone. So instead, they use something that I like to call kick the dog, which is you make everyone in this world, in this Minecraft world, in this content, an antagonist to Dream, which means that he's the underdog and we want to support him. Now, for newer creators, you might be able to do all this, but it will make your video like an hour long. So much to remember. So how do you keep your kind of videos fast and have a fast progression, have a fast pace? Let's specifically go into the example. Actually, let's break down these curves. On the left, the pacing of this video was very, very slow. We didn't know if it was going anywhere. I was kind of falling asleep. The way that I see retention, if you're watching on your computer and you start to pick up your phone to scroll through Twitter, you start talking to your mum, you start, going on TikTok, that's, things you want to avoid because some people might have the luxury of having their phone. Some people are watching on their phone. So if they want to click off, if they want to do something else, that's where you lose retention. On the left, slow pacing. On the right, fast pacing, which means that it felt like it had, a purpose. Now, purpose is very, very important in content. If it feels like it isn't going anywhere, what's the point of watching? Now, I don't know if you've heard of this small creator called Mr. Beast. He has very, very good aggressive pacing. So let's break down how Mr. Beast has been experimenting specifically in the second most recent video, $100,000 every time you survive this prison. Now, you've probably seen this video because we're all creators. But I'll give you a synopsis. This person stays 21 days in this room and the cameras are rolling for 24 hours, which means that it has about 504 hours of footage. feel so bad for the editor, because what happened is that the runtime of the video was 14 minutes, which meant that he cut out 99.96% of the content. Now, what can we learn from this stat? Not only do you cut out the boring parts of the videos, the the pauses, you cut out the unjustifiable parts. If it doesn't add to the pacing, if it doesn't add to the emotion, and if it doesn't add to the story, cut it. Now, I don't know if you've heard of it. If you haven't, definitely watch his videos called Hillier Smith, who's Logan Paul's editor. He says, kill your darlings, which is essentially, even if it's a really cool scene, it might be an amazing shot, but if it undermines the pacing, you don't need it. It will bore your audience and they'll click off. So what is the point of it? Now, great quote that I heard when someone was reviewing this presentation called Matt Lovelace, shout out. He said, if a clip, if a second, if a frame doesn't add to the concept of the video, why is it there? It shouldn't be in your video. So if you could only learn one thing from this presentation, learn this. Cut, cut, cut. Now, if we're going to summarize this, if it can be edited out and it doesn't affect the story, edit it out. But how do you keep, track of this? Now, I don't know if I've missed this. Yes, sorry. Now, Hillier Smith, who's Logan Paul's editor, he has a breakdown of how to keep attention to this, and I've already spoiled it. But he has a great strategy with editing, which is this triangle. Now, what you do is you get a piece of paper in front of you. I know, pretty kind of rustic. And it's a triangle. At the tip, you have pacing. At the right side, you have story. On the left, you have emotion. And whenever you cut, you then put your triangle, the tip, at the top. So if you cut to show an emotion, you put the tip of the triangle at the top, which keeps you track of it. And this is because you don't want to, have it all about pacing. Otherwise, you end up with like Matthew Beam, who's over-optimizes content to the point it's kind of, you don't know who Matthew Beam is. You might have too much story, which means it's more of a movie than a YouTube video. And if you have too much emotion, it might drag on. So this triangle is a great way to not only break down your cuts, but to keep track of it. Now, let's go on to the next thing. Now, other pacing mistakes, these are just generic tips, is something called the L cut and the J cut. Now, whenever I look at someone's content, I don't know if you've had me look at your content, but I will shout it to you every single time. You didn't add an L cut, you didn't add a J cut. But what does that mean? If you look at the bottom right, an L cut is when the audio continues and the primary video cuts. A J cut is when your audio continues to play and your kind of video cuts. Now, there's great, if you don't understand it, because it's quite a hard concept to explain, there's a great YouTube video that I'll put in the chat that explains it very, very clearly with examples from movies. And what essentially that does is that if you cut a video and an audio at the same time, it feels really disconnected. And essentially, disconnected means that it breaks the rhythm of your video, the pacing. And if you break the pacing, it's an example or an opportunity more specifically for your audience to click off. Now, don't cut for no reason as well. Each cut should have a reason, a motivation, or a context behind it. That's especially used within the triangle I just explained, right? And the reason why is you may bore a viewer or burn them out with too many cuts. If you're cutting every millisecond, for people with seizures, you'll probably trigger that. But also, it's hard to understand. Now, this is the worst thing with many creators. This is just me going off on a rant. But a bad song, I will slap you. This music, you don't just slap it on as, well, I've edited it, looks visually good. I'll just, grab a Tommy in It track. That will do okay. Now, the reason why music is amazing, and people don't use it right, is because a music is a great way to create a connotation. So you might listen to, a connotation with a content creator, especially with Tommy in It. If you hear his Able Sisters tune, you'll all know that. You'll think of Tommy in It, yeah, and I have it there. Or Dream Speedrunning View It, or Aliyah's intro music. If it's, you're thinking of another creator while you're listening to it, you're not thinking about the content, which will reduce your retention. Now, your music is used for emotion, so it's your soul and feeling. So don't waste it on just slapping it on. Now, this is a controversial thing to say, but audio is always more important than your video. Now, your ideas matter as well. If they suck, no one will continue watching, right? Now, if you can't come up with a brand new original idea that no one's ever heard about, do what I like to call a yoink and twist. Steal the idea, but make it 3% different. Now, this is the last thing that I'll focus on quickly, which is going beyond how to get your viewers to watch your next video and increase your session time, which is the amount of people that watch your next video, which helps the YouTube algorithm. Now, I don't know if you've read a book by Daryl Eves, who's a YouTube consultant to Mr. Beast. He recommends using something called bucket content. Dream's a great example of this, which is different kind of, video subjects, but all have the same audience, which means that your audience can binge watch one bucket, and once they've binge watched that whole entire bucket, all they're recommended will be Dream. Now, it increases your session time, and it creates a rabbit hole that your viewer can go down. Now, I can't specifically show it in this example, but his buckets are kind of connected, which means that you can easily jump from bucket to bucket. Now, he has his trend hop videos when he first started out, like Last to Leave the Circle wins $10,000. His Manhunt, I don't know if you've heard of that, everyone's heard of it. Minecraft Unsolved, his modded survival, his Reddit videos, his speedruns, they're all connected, but it also creates a rabbit hole for your viewer. Now, this is another thing with S&P videos. Are you rememberable? Will your viewer remember your content? Will they remember you? Now, it seems like a simple point, right? Of course they'll remember your content. Your content, you've been editing it for hours. But if your viewer doesn't remember you, how you made them feel, why would they remember and click onto another of your videos, right? You might not remember specifically what they said, but you'll remember how the content made you feel. And because we are going for an audience, we're going for people, we want to make them feel good. And they'll think, oh, this parrot guy, this LowKeyJude guy, he makes me feel good, right? So I'll watch another one. Now, a video that I've seen in the S&P niche is Parrot, I got hunted by the smartest players. But let's break into it. Why do I remember it so much? Now, it could be explained by a psychology reasoning called the peak end rule, which is a psychological theory that humans will remember the experience from the peak of it and the end. Now, it's explained in the bottom right. So if we example in the parrot video at the peak, it was a massive tense trap game show. It was nail biting. I remember I was in college. I was watching it. I was late to my class because I was watching a parrot video. I was like, I want to know what's happening next. And I remember that experience now. I remember the people passing me, looking at me weird while I'm, bunking off history to watch a Minecraft video. And I remember the end where the hunters are led through an armor stand maze while he has invis. He's weaving in and out of these people. Would he get caught? I won't spoil the video, I was about to. But if you can remember it, the content, how it made you feel, I might see a parrot video in my recommended. And because they made me feel, this is an amazing bit of content, I'm more likely to click on it compared to, let's say, Matthew Beebe. That made me feel empty and sad. Now, this is another very important part, end cards. Now, you've probably heard of an end card, but essentially an end card is when you click on the next video. Quite a simple point, but how do you increase the amount of people that click on your next video? Now, there's two specific examples I want to focus on, which is Ryan Trahan's I Survived 50 Hours in 2D. Now, Ryan's end card makes you want to watch another video, but why? Specifically in this video, it's 3 examples of a robotic voice chanting, press the button, press the button, press the button. It's specifically telling you, watch another video. I survived temporary deprivation. You want more because it's such a good video. You want another Ryan Trahan video. Now, he uses not to use a simple call to action in this video, which means that he grabs your attention. I haven't seen anyone else use this strategy in the whole of YouTube, specifically using a robotic voice to create a rhythm that makes you want to watch another. So instead of clicking off, you click on another one. Why have more subscribers? So I know a lot of people that say, subscribe to me. That's another common end card CTA. So CTA is a call to action, telling your audience to do something specifically. So why have more subscribers? Because specifically, subscribers, they're what's called a vanity number. They have no effect on the algorithm. So why would you prioritize something that has no effect on the algorithm when you can target something called watch time, session time, which will specifically not only make them a fan of you and your content, so conditioning the viewer to click on another one, but, increasing an algorithmic metric that will increase your likelihood of going to recommend it. Now, Ryan is starting to condition the viewer to click on his content whenever you see it, which means that when you watch another of his videos, you watch another one and another one. That's specifically seen in his new Penny series. I don't know if anyone's falling into the ritualistic kind of structure of clicking on another of his videos. It's that kind of, as soon as this Penny series ends, and we don't get daily uploads from Ryan, we're going to feel out of it and we'll want more Ryan content, which will increase the amount of people watching his next video. And that's all essentially YouTube is. Clicking on your video and watching more, as like said at the start of the PowerPoint. Another interesting end scene is Airax's videos. Now I have his toes on display, but it's I crossed America in a perfectly straight line. He spent 8 minutes saying, "Oh my god, I don't want to step out this line. This challenge is super important to me," and he goes to the beach where the end of America is. It's like, guys, I finally do it. The music swells. We feel happy. But it doesn't end the video. Where it should have ended, it doesn't. There is a joke. And if you see on the right, this cross specifically is saying he actually stepped out on the line, which is to his right, which means he failed the challenge. After spending hours and hours, traveling in a straight line, going over challenges, using a flying car to go in a straight line, he failed the challenge. But why is this, a good strategy to increase session time? Now, this joke is called Goosh by Daryl Eves, which is, I've talked about him. He's a strategist for MrBeast. And it's an extra payout or payoff that attracts the viewer. It humanizes Airax and it makes the viewer have a little spurt of joy. Like, oh my god, after all of this, he just felt that's so funny. And then he shows the end card, which is subscribe, watch another. And he's, giving you a great video. He's just made you laugh and you're like, you feel indebted to him, which means you're like, oh, I'll help you out. I'll subscribe. I'll watch your end card. And that increases the odds you'll watch another video, which increases the odds you'll become a fan of Airax. Now, that's the end of the presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now, I'm a no knife when it comes to YouTube. So if you have any other questions, just message me. There's my Discord tag, or DM me on Twitter. There's the link on, that presentation. And I know this presentation's free, so feel free to share to all of your friends. I hope that's all good.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Jude. We really appreciate it. Guys, I think, Jude, do you have time to take a couple questions?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, awesome. If anyone has any questions, they can drop it in workshop questions. I know somebody had asked earlier about an example of using embarrassment script. I know you gave one, but maybe you could give another one.
So, for example, specifically, if you have an example, let me try and think of one. Like, we all know that embarrassment is like one of the worst emotions to have. You don't want to feel embarrassed in front of your friends. So, for example, if you are in front of your friends and they say, I bet you can't, bridge 1,000 blocks in Bed Wars. And you say, of course I can. Your antagonist, your opposition to the video, you want to prove them wrong. And that's another emotional stake you can use. You can always slap on, a 24-hour steak, but that gets boring, it gets stale. It's not as memorable as saying, oh no, I'm going to fail against my friend.
Yeah, okay. And then uh somebody
Yeah,
was just kind of asking about like shorts because
yeah.
I obviously this is a lot of research from long form. I had mentioned that a lot of this stuff is still applicable to shorts. A lot of this information can still be utilized in order to run a successful shorts channel. But did you have just anything specific you wanted to touch up on shorts specifically?
Shorts are very interesting because instead of where I talked about you get your attention through, clicking on the thumbnail and title, you don't get your attention. It's literally just forced on your kind of plate. So the first thing you should do is your hook, a sound effect. Why should the viewer watch your TikTok? And that's why I recommend using these hooks that I've talked about. And the re-engagement strategies, especially in TikTok, they're super, super important because people are actively clicking, thinking, this is getting boring. There hasn't been 1 second payoff for in this TikTok. I want to be entertained. TikTok is a lot harder because it's all condensed down. So it's the work of an 8-minute video condensed down into a 10 to 20-second video. I hope that's answered your question.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then if you just want to take a look in workshop questions,
Yeah,
looks
let's
like
have a
you're
look.
getting a few more questions in there, and I'll let
Yeah,
you just
if
go
you
through them
ping
as
me
you
as
want.
well so I can see it properly.
Oh yeah, it's in channel there. There you go.
Yeah,
And then if you just
just
scroll up a
ping me
bit.
and I'll see it. Yeah. Is there a potential in combining cited strategies from other channels into a certain hybrid strategy? Is it enough to differentiate, or would you muddy the work in progress? The way that I think about it is combining niches is a great way to innovate. Now, let's go a little bit nerdy and say there's a book by Seth Godin who's like an amazing like businessman. We can apply the thinking of there, which he says innovating, which is how you build an audience or a tribe he uses. So I 100% agree. You can steal ideas from Airac, from Ryan Trahan, and combine them with Minecraft. Put your own spin of it, because your spin, your 3% different. The way that you've stolen an idea and put your unique spin is, you've done this Airac thing in Minecraft. So that is your unique twist. So like hybrid strategies is a great way to build an audience and differentiate yourself. Um, the best sound effects, I think it depends on the tone of the video. If you're kind of, well, this is a very, very important point. Lots of people I've seen used meme sound effects. And in my opinion, it dates your content. Let's say the most up and coming meme is 21, like 6 years ago. If you hear like a 21 meme in an SMP video, in a Minecraft video now, you cringe because you're like, oh, this is so outdated. This is so cringe. So using sound effects that are memes dates the content and dates the limitation and the reach of the video, and it means that it's not evergreen. Great sound effects is a riser, a swoosh, and like pop noises if you want to emphasize something. I hope that's answered the question. The 2 second rule, I'm not specifically don't know it. I'm guessing it's like hooking your audience in 2 seconds. Now, in my opinion, 2 seconds in our world is not fast enough. I think when I watch a video, I decide within 1 second, is the audio good? Is the visual good? Is the idea interesting? Is it what I expected? There's loads of things running through our mind as a watcher, right? So you want to make sure that the first, millisecond is interesting. And, I've got anxiety, so I overthink a lot of things, but I like to overthink the first milliseconds. What's movement on the screen? Which means that it's specifically, also relates to TikTok, called multi-narrative content, which is when, there's subtitles, there's sound effects, there's audio, and there's a voiceover. Lots of different things you can focus on at once. Hope that's answered your question. Well, the best sources to study strategies. Well, there's paid ones that like Vid Summit or Creator Now, but good ones is Seth Godin Tribes, which I talked about briefly. Superfans, which is talks about how to build an audience and create an idea to go full time. I've got loads of books. Let me actually have a look. Save the Cat, and there's loads. So if you go into Colin Samir, within their description, they have 4 books that are like important for you to read as a content creator. Another one's Hillier Smith and Paddy Galloway is the most solid things, as well as Film Booth and Tyler Fletchman. Tyler Fletchman is in the server and he focuses on the packaging of videos, including titles and thumbnails. So whenever someone asks me a question like, I don't know what to, title the video, I don't know the thumbnail, I always send those videos because it goes over the 21 best thumbnails within the game right now. Is it better to separate short YouTube channel or post to the main channel with full video length? If you don't know exactly what you're doing, I would 100% recommend separating shorts and separating long form because it gets very, very confusing as there are 2 different audiences. How do I know if I match my video to my audio correctly? If you get your friend to watch it and they say, and you ask them how they felt, if they say, it's good, but the music feels weird, or let's answer this in a different way. What I recommend is go on whatever the way that you find your audio. Let's say I use Epidemic Sound here, Epidemic Sound and Artlist. Those are 2 paid services, but you listen to it like you use Spotify and you say, this makes me feel happy. This makes me feel sad. This makes me feel whatever emotion, right? I hope that makes sense. So essentially, try and guess what emotion is coming through in the music. What does it come down to when trying to be unique in a niche? And that is very hard to be original. SMP and Minecraft content. Is it editing, storytelling, stuff like that? What I recommend is finding one thing that no one else is doing. Now, I know this might sound hard, but for example, in the SMP videos, only one person is properly storytelling, which is building an antagonist, a protagonist, a reason to root for your hero, which is Wenzo. Many SMP people are rinsing the same format without innovating. And like I said, Seth Godin, innovation equals to a tribe, which equals to an audience. So specifically innovation, find a way that you can change, you can take the ideas of other people and change it by 3%. So for example, an intro or an idea, you change it by 3%. Okay. Bump. Yes, I have seen that. Bump again. Since pacing is the most common mistake for newcomers, should they avoid multiple narratives in the video or first outlining to avoid making things that are too complicated out the gate? I think focus on one question within the intro and then delay it to the end. And when you master that, that will be your A story. Then you can move on to trying to juggle it with a B story. And once you become better at storytelling, you'll be able to juggle them better. So personally, I think that comes from experience. It's always good to experiment with your content, especially as a smaller creator. You're able to take a lot more risks as a smaller creator because, for example, Tommy in it, if he releases a poo-poo shit video, no people are like, oh, Tommy in it, I expect better than you. You have 10 million views. But if you upload it, like, for example, I haven't uploaded my first video, it's okay if I make a shit video, right? Because no one has any expectations of me. So experiment now. In the Minecraft niche, do you think you should start quick funny moments before getting into the intro or explanation or get right into the intro? I say it's more about, knowing the vibe of the content. So for example, if it's a funny video, you wouldn't start with, in this video, I donated $10,000 to my worst enemy on this SMP. You would start with, if it's funny, a joke, right? So your intro should not only show the premise and all the things I've talked about, but set the tone of the video. So I think experiment with both of them and look at your retention graph, see what your audience likes more. Is the presentation itself is going to be available? I'll be giving out the link as well as the recorded version. Do you think this YouTube advice and YouTube in general will ever change and adapt in the future meta? Well, there's someone called Hillier Smith right now that predicts that the aggressive content, which is Mr. Beast and what's his name, Matthew Beam and Eric, which is very in your face, begging an audience not to click off, will go into optimized storytelling, which is combining the right and left hand side. So the creative side of storytelling, which will happen during Casey Neistat, and the left hand, I don't know if I've got the left and hand right mixed up, but essentially a mixture of creative and non-creative, which is your data analysis mixed with your storytelling. Those will two combine, and the most important and the most recent example of this is Ryan Trahan's Penny series. It's very, very optimized. There's a joke every 2 seconds, loads of audio changes. It's great. But, it technically, if you see it as a YouTube professional, they said, well, they actually didn't, say their premise, they didn't have any stakes. They didn't have a twist. So we're going into a more optimized storytelling, which is combining the ideas of this presentation with storytelling. So if you need help with storytelling, Baked Minecraft Curious also did a workshop on storytelling that you can use. Now, basically a 2+2 style. So that's when you talk about movies, when you make your audience think about it. It's a mixture of fours, which is giving your audience what they want. So specifically, if I'm talking about how I feel and I say, I feel angry, I feel sad, that's a 4 because you're already giving them the answer. A 2+2 is, well, I walked out today and, I just didn't feel like myself. And I was walking down the street and I was like, so that's a 2+2. Obviously I feel sad. What stats other than CTR and AVD are also important? Those are the only two stats you really have to, think about, which is, I talked about the YouTube formula. All it is, the algorithm is a way to serve the audience. And the way it samples this data is CTR, the amount of people that click on your video, and your AVD, how long people watch through. However, in 2016, they added an example of viewer satisfaction. So that's when people like your videos. I don't know if you ever had it, a survey, and it says this video was a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It also pushes the video. However, that doesn't mean you should ask for likes. That's a horrible thing because that means people will skip over, which decreases AVD. The best indication of how well a video will do is your AVD times your CTR. I have a graph somewhere I can put in as well, which will, show everything. Are you going to give the link for the presentation, Docs? Yes, I will give it. Where can I get a storytelling vid from the Minecraft Curious workshop? I'll find the link for you after this Q&A. It will be kept public, don't worry. Should I be aiming for a certain AVD depending on my video length? Always try and get the maximum amount of AVD possible. I think specifically thinking about certain numbers, will make you sad, it'll make you depressed. Having a personalized goal, depending on how good your content is the best way that I would personally recommend. However, I'm pretty sure Mr. Beast has created one based on his stats that I know someone has, which is like a certain amount of graphs. It's also important to know that as your video is pushed out more, your AVD will decrease as more people will watch it. So it's hard to know like a certain ballpark. Let me grab the chat again. Now that dislikes are gone, what can I do to get less dislikes on my video so people stop watching and using the button? Less dislikes on my video so people stop watching and using the button. For example, if you actually, I'm trying to think. Dislikes, they don't actually mean anything. For an Minecraft SMP video, what length should I go for? I would recommend going for 8 minutes, as that means that you're available to get more AVD, more average view duration on the video. However, the way that I recommend it is, script for 10 minutes, cut down to 8, and if there's any fluff, bits that don't add to the story, like I talked about cutting, don't cut it. Should I ask for subs? No money. No, you can ask for subs, but they don't actually mean anything. He actually wanted to answer? Any more questions? Let's keep it going. No, Mike, I got a pink. Just Manny. Who do we care? Notes. Thank you. Thank you. Allowed to record the audio, of course. This is free information. Any other questions, guys? Ping, ping. What makes a video stand out? Yeah, it's a lot of information. Don't worry. Standing out. Innovation, experimenting. You won't know what your audience wants until you experiment. This is just generic advice, right? Where it's based on the average viewer. Your viewer will be different, your audience will be different, so they might like certain things more than the average person, especially in SMP videos. I think right now, storytelling and audience building is the most slept on, which means that people are like, in this video, I'll be making my dog immortal. Sorry, Manny. And that's all you do, right? That's the whole video. What keeps me watching? What keeps me engaged? That's how you do it. Can I get a picture of your bookshop? Yeah. Any other questions? What's the best part of a video to incorporate a Patreon pub? This is important. Calling your audience out to do something is called a CTA, a call to action. So a call to action is best and most effective when you give them a payoff. So when like the most exciting bit of the video is, it's like, by the way, guys, I need money to live, so subscribe to my Patreon. It's only X amount of money. Make sure it's less than 10 seconds because that's minimizing the amount of people that click. Because people will double tap on their phone, which automatically skips 10 seconds. If you completely make it exactly 10 seconds, minimizes the amount. So instead of losing 10 seconds of AVD, you lose, well, instead of losing 20 seconds of AVD, you lose 10. Matthew Beam uses ups and, can I have a picture of your toes? No. Matthew Beam uses ups and downs to establish progression. So would I want to emphasize the challenge as much as the success in my video? Yes. If your video feels boring because the challenge isn't exciting, emphasize the challenge. You know, you've already got the viewer's attention. They want to be there from YouTube, right? They've clicked on. So make sure the challenge feels even more. Like Sand Diction, he's a great example of this. He doesn't instantly, get the payoff. No, for real, I'm genuine one. Yeah, I'll give you a picture. I know. When I paid for someone of my subscribers, none of them watch my videos. If your intro features emphasized images that were featured in the thumbnail as well, does that may have an impact on retention? For example, I know Tommy Innit used it in his Paris video, which is his thumbnail is the same as the cold intro, which means that as soon as you click on, you see the thumbnail. Now, I don't know if I have any data to make a data-driven decision, but I would guess so, because that's why the audience is there. They clicked on for the thumbnail. Do you have the mindset for brainstorming good video ideas? Either scroll through your competition's videos, see what videos got more views on average. So, for example, if they only get 1 million and they uploaded a video with 4 million, see why that video works, or steal it completely and change it by 3%. If you actually want to make original content, which is pretty hard, turn off everything, get a pen and paper, and just write down every single thought you have, no matter if it's shit, no matter if it's like the worst video idea you ever come up, type it down. Would you be interested in purchasing my retention powder? Sure. This is going a bit away from the topic, but I've seen mixed things about using YouTube ads for channel promotion and how it affects your return ABD. I would recommend not promoting your video through ads because it's expensive and your audience, your YouTube will always push out your video if it's good, if your AVD is high. Matt Lovelace says, why are you British? Why are you American? Cringe. What is your A-level choices? Maths, English, and history. Don't choose any of them, they're hell. Do you think I'm pretty? I think you're pretty cute. Unless you're... oh, fuck, I'm going to go to prison. If you're over the age of 18, yes. Should I drop out of high school for YouTube? No. Any other questions? May have missed this one. Let me go up. Is there a hope in making VODs into videos, or is it better record videos that can be fully planned and produced? I think it's very hard to turn VODs into videos. So I would personally recommend changing your recording separate videos, because that also means that your current audience has new content to watch. But of course, Ludwig easily makes VODs into clips because he knows exactly, he plans out the streams. So he actually makes a YouTube video and streams it, if that makes sense. Let's go down. What year am I in? I am 18, so 13. Should I? No, year 13, or whatever American alternative. Should I sell my YouTube channel? Yes. Can I see exactly who you're subscribed to? No, because that would expose me. Should I fucking give up and die? No. This is a very important point. I know it was, but 99 or even more percent of YouTubers, the reason why they don't blow up and don't have success is they quit within the first year. If you can get past the first year, it's more, likely that you'll have success in YouTube. Please upload a Fortnite video just for you sweet cheeks, I will. Thoughts on Rion, kind of cringe. Does promoting via short form content hurt AVD? Now, that's an example of two people, two examples, which is if you're uploading the exact video and people have already seen it on TikTok or whatever, they might skip that bit and hurt AVD. However, it means that it can be pushed out to that audience and you'll get more views. So personally, I wouldn't do it because I don't know exactly what's going on. Sure, some people within this Discord call have done it before and had success. Some people have done it and not had success. It's very hard to know.
All right, Jude.
Yeah. Is
I
that all
think,
good
yeah,
now?
I mean, I think we're good. Yeah. If you're
Okay,
okay,
nice.
we'll stop in here.
Yeah, I'll move to General if anybody else has any questions.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again, Jude, for putting on that presentation for retention. We really appreciate it. And I know everybody here in Creator Gains appreciates it as well. So if
Yeah, it
everyone
was
wants to
fun.
tell Jude thank you, that would be very much appreciated. We appreciate you spending time talking to us all. And yeah, like Jude said, he's going to hop into general. So if
And
you
if
guys
anyone
want to,
has the recording, please send it to me. Thank
oh,
you.
yeah, please message Gup. That would be super, super helpful. So awesome.
Okay, see you guys. I'll be moving to General, and thanks for hosting it. It was really
Yeah,
fun.
100%. All right. Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
see you guys.